Thanks for subscribing and liking. Comment below what time you're watching this video. The day we moved in, the sky was pale and heavy, as if holding its breath. The road that led to the house was empty, a single stretch of cracked asphalt surrounded by tall, colorless grass. My wife drove in silence. We hadn't spoken for most of the ride. The boxes in the back rattled every time the tires hit a bump. We had wanted quiet, space, a place where the city couldn't reach us. That's what we told ourselves. The house was old but sturdy, 2 stories, with paint peeling in thin layers like dead skin. A wraparound porch sagged slightly at one corner. The trees nearby leaned inward, as though watching us arrive. When we stepped out of the car, I realized how quiet the place truly was. No birds, no wind. Even our footsteps sounded too loud. The key turned with resistance, and the door opened into air thick with dust and something else. A faint metallic scent, like wet iron. We spent the rest of the day unpacking, trying to make the rooms look alive again. The floors creaked under every step, as if complaining. The house seemed to adjust to us, expanding, settling, breathing. By the time the sun went down, I could barely keep my eyes open. That first night I woke to a sound I couldn't name. Not loud, but close. It came from the hallway, a slow, rhythmic tapping, almost like fingers brushing against the wall. My wife was asleep beside me. I waited, listening. The tapping stopped, replaced by a deep silence that somehow felt heavier than before. When I finally closed my eyes, I heard something else. A faint breath near my ear. Not my imagination. I froze, waiting for it to come again. But it didn't. The room was still. My pulse filled the space where the sound had been. In the morning, sunlight cut through the curtains, making the dust shimmer. The air felt lighter, but the memory of the night lingered. My wife mentioned that the kitchen faucet had started dripping even though it was tightly closed. She tried to laugh it off, but her voice trembled. I checked the sink, wiped it dry, and walked away. A moment later, the drip started again. Small things like that began to happen. The bathroom door creaked open on its own, footsteps above us when both of us were downstairs. The smell of something burnt even though nothing was cooking. One evening the power went out. No storm, no wind, no reason. I took a flashlight and checked the fuse box. Everything looked fine. When I turned back, I saw my reflection in the old hallway mirror for the first time since we'd moved in. My light flickered, and for a second, the reflection didn't move with me. My wife came up behind me asking what I was doing. I told her nothing. But something in the way she looked at me made me realize she had seen the same thing. Days blended together. The clocks in the house began to misbehave. Some ran fast, others slow. We would wake up at what felt like morning, only to find it was still dark outside. The line between waking and dreaming blurred. I started to feel like the house was observing us, memorizing our movements. At night, I could hear whispers behind the walls. They weren't random noises. They had rhythm like speech, though too faint to understand. Sometimes I thought they were calling my name. I never told my wife. One afternoon, I found her standing in front of the mirror in the living room. She had been there for a while, completely still. When I touched her shoulder, she flinched. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. "Hear what I said?" "The voices," she answered. I listened. Nothing. only the distant hum of silence pressing against the windows. I tried to pull her away from the mirror, but she wouldn't move. Her reflection looked wrong. The angle of her face didn't match reality. That night she talked in her sleep. Her voice was low, almost guttural. The words didn't sound like any language I knew. I shook her awake, and she stared at me with wide, empty eyes before falling back asleep. In the morning, she remembered nothing. I began keeping lights on in every room. It didn't help. Shadows still gathered where the light didn't reach. Sometimes I would catch movement in my peripheral vision. Sometimes I would smell the faint metallic scent again, stronger now, almost suffocating. The basement door had been locked since we arrived. One morning I found it open, not wide, just a few inches, enough for the smell to seep out, damp, old, cold. I didn't tell her, but that night I couldn't resist. I went down alone. The steps groaned under my weight. The air grew colder with each one. My flashlight beam cut through layers of dust. The basement wasn't large, just a low room with stone walls and pipes along the ceiling. In the far corner stood a tall shape covered with a white cloth. I approached slowly. The cloth was heavy with moisture. When I pulled it down, I saw a mirror. Taller than me, the glass dark and uneven, its surface pulsing faintly like it was breathing. My flashlight flickered. For a moment, my reflection appeared, but there was something behind me. A shape. I spun around, but the room was empty. When I looked back, the reflection had changed. The shape was closer. My own face had started to blur, features melting into shadow. Then the flashlight went out. Something cold touched the back of my neck. Not a draft, not air, fingers. I ran, hitting the steps so hard the wood cracked under me. The door slammed shut before I reached it. I pushed, but it wouldn't open. When it finally did, my wife was standing there, her eyes wide, her voice shaking. "Where were you?" "In the basement," I said. Her face went pale. "There is no basement," she whispered. She showed me what she meant. Behind the door, there were only stairs leading down a few feet before ending in a solid wall. No room, no mirror, nothing. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. From that day on, the mirrors in the house began to change. They no longer showed our reflections clearly. Sometimes they showed the hallway behind us, but empty. Sometimes I saw movement where there should be none. Once, I saw myself standing still while I turned away. My wife started spending hours sitting in front of the mirror in the living room. She barely spoke. I tried to pull her away, but her body was rigid, her eyes fixed on the glass. When I touched her shoulder, she whispered something I could barely hear. "They want to come through." Her voice was calm, almost peaceful. The next evening, I came into the room and found her hand pressed against the glass. The surface rippled, like water disturbed by a stone. She didn't look scared. She looked relieved. I shouted, tried to grab her, but her hand began to sink into the mirror. The glass folded around her wrist, then her arm. She turned her head toward me as her face dissolved into the surface. I remember her smile right before she disappeared completely. The mirror went still. The room was silent. I hit the glass until my hands bled, but it didn't move. No sound, no reflection. Only my own breath fogging the surface. Since that night, the house has been alive. The walls pulse with faint echoes. Whispers drift through the rooms. I hear her voice among them, sometimes calling my name, sometimes laughing. The mirrors no longer show me. They show the house the way it was before we came here. Empty, untouched, waiting. I tried to leave. The front door opens to fog. No road, no sound of wind. Just gray nothingness stretching endlessly. I stepped outside once, but after a few steps I found myself back inside, facing the same door from the other side. Now I sit in front of the mirror, the same one from the basement, though I never brought it up. It's here against the wall, humming softly. When I touch it, it feels warm, alive. Inside I can see faint shapes moving. Her shape. Sometimes she speaks. Her voice comes through like a breath underwater. You don't have to be afraid. Come closer, I do. Every night I sit a little nearer. Every night her outline becomes clearer. There's something else behind her now. Dozens of faces pressed against the glass, watching. Eyes hollow, mouths open. The walls shake when I try to turn away. The air bends around me, pushing me forward. The house doesn't want me to leave anymore. Maybe it never did. Last night I dreamed, or maybe I didn't, that I woke up inside the mirror. Everything was reversed. The air thick, my reflection standing outside looking in. My wife smiled beside me. The house beyond the glass was bright and empty. For the first time, it felt like home. When I opened my eyes, I was still sitting on the floor. The mirror was breathing again, the glass expanding and contracting with slow rhythm. I leaned closer. My reflection blinked a moment after I did. Then it smiled. It's smiling now too as I write this. I can feel it watching. The whisper has started again, crawling through the walls. Come back, it says, you belong here. I don't remember when I last saw the daylight. The clocks have all stopped. The house hums softly, like a heartbeat. I think it's mine now, or maybe I'm its. The mirror is glowing faintly, pulsing. I can see her hand reaching out. I'm tired of resisting. The glass feels warm. The surface ripples. And when I step closer, I see there's no reflection at all. Just an open door.